by giants. I count their, we are hanging from their shoulders. That's what we, and this is really what we all do. There are these people that have made these amazing discoveries, and then we're like little kids, and we just kind of climb on them, and then we look like we are taller, but we are not. Because without them, we are just like little children. And on this, I just really want to tell you that when I speak about this paradigm shift, I'm really talking actually very highly about the other people that have done research in the field. I did not discover CADASIL. CADASIL was discovered by these amazing geneticists and scientists in France. They discovered the disease. We have the largest family in the world in Colombia, but we did not discover CADASIL. It was discovered in France. Did I discover NOSH3? No, I did not. But someone I worked for did. You know what I'm saying? And this is how now I can just climb up over their shoulders and maybe see farther than they did, and that's how research works. Okay? So in any way, it's an idea. I'm here. I'm talking about it, and it's the way science works. So what is the established? What I say? What is the established paradigm? Established paradigm really has to do with how the mutations work. And the way people think the mutations work is the following. And this is every review that has been written, every article that you could read, either by a physician or by a scientist, and is the bulk of the literature. It's like a pile. You can make a pile of it, and this is why it's a paradigm. Okay? So the way that people think the mutations work is the following. They think that here, you're going to start now to see things that look familiar because you are now experts. Here you have, what is this? NOSH3, the receptor. And what is this? The cysteine, the extra cysteine. And you are experts, they like to go in pairs. But in CADASIL, they aren't. Here there is an extra one hanging around. It's just an extra one hanging around. So the way people think it works is that the fact that this cysteine is around, and they like to go in pairs, actually triggers interactions with something else. And that something else is not known. But this is like I told you, it's like teenagers. They always like to go in pairs. Is that wrong? No, because they are teenagers. That's fine. What happens when it's a teenager and they are hanging around with someone that is not a teenager? Is that right? No. That's wrong. That's aberrant. It's and everyone is like, well, you just don't hang out. Well, how old is he? How old is she? They are the same age, that's okay. They are not, you are like, why are you leaving this house? You have to do this and this. I'm now a parent. My wife and I, we had a boy, and he's 2 months and a half. So I'm warming up towards it. But he will hear me saying this. So, this is, so when this extra system that is odd wants to make it even, and it starts interacting with things that it shouldn't. And people think that this is the way the disease works. Basically, the mutations trigger aberrant interactions of NOSH3 with other things that trigger a smooth muscle cell death. This is the smooth muscle. Death, and this smooth muscle cell death leads to vascular, to arteriopathy. You know all these terms now, oh my God. Leads to the arteriopathy, and then leads to stroke. Okay? So this is the paradigm. Paradigm, and this is terrible, I'm sorry. This is an aberrant interaction leads to smooth muscle death. This is the arteriopathy, and this is actually stroke. What does this, if we look back at our model, okay, of signaling, you remember the satellite, and that's notch 3, okay? So the way the disease works in that model, which we are all familiar with, is that the satellite is fine, meaning the signaling is fine. It works as a satellite, it's sending signals, but it's interacting with someone out there, triggering an aberrant interaction that somehow leads to pathology. There is something else out there that the protein is interacting with, but it does not affect signaling. Signaling is okay. What could be interacting with? I can tell you in this example, it is fair to say that it's interacting with an alien object. Why do I say that the analogy is fair? Because no one knows what it is. Okay? It's alien. No one knows. So, signaling is fine, but it's interacting with an alien object out there, and that somehow triggers the disease. Now, you will think, that sounds like a little bit like science fiction. If you don't know what it is, how did it become a paradigm? If we know so little and you have so little evidence, why is it established? And I honestly don't have an answer for that, but it's puzzling. It's puzzling that this idea has become the way we understand the disease, although we know so little about it. We don't know what this something is. We don't know how it leads to small muscle cell death. We don't know how it leads to a stroke. We don't even know what that other something is. And yet, it's become the paradigm. And instead, the concept that signaling is okay, has been assumed and has been supported by some evidence. So there is some evidence. Sometimes scientists will do this. We have evidence that something works, so we say, oh, it's not signaling because when we check these satellites, they are sending the signal. So, well, if it's not signaling, it must be this. Even if we don't have evidence of that. Okay? And that's, a way in which science sometimes progresses. Does anyone know who in philosophy actually advocated for that kind of thinking? This guy Popper, have you ever heard of him? This idea that we can learn not by seeking the truth, but by learning what is right and what is true, but instead by looking at what is wrong. And that if we eventually say what is not happening, we will end up with the truth. And I argue that this is a little bit of what has happened in the field. We know signaling, and we have some evidence more or less that signaling is okay, that the satellite is working. So if it's not this, and this system like to go in pairs, it must be anyways that what is happening is that there is some aberrant interaction. It doesn't matter if it's an alien object. Maybe there is life in other planets, who knows? And that somehow leads to small muscle cell degeneration and stroke. And this is the paradigm. So, are you surprised that we don't have a cure for CADASIL? Are you surprised? Raise your hand if you are surprised.
Not now.
Not now, because it's like, it's only one, yeah, how are we going to have a cure if we don't have anything solid to base our ideas and design our experiments? We don't know what this other something is, it's an alien thing. How can we design the experiments? What's next? We have been totally lost. We don't know what the next thing is. We don't have a really good idea. We cannot build upon. This is the problem. That's why I think we don't have it.